I'm gonna talk today about our new verticals, which is a talent management verticals. You see in the verticals, there is something called the talent management readiness. This is what I'm gonna speak about from our DocIntel offerings. What happens is, that's we see a lot of resumes and a lot of job postings, right, in the LinkedIn, Indeed, or many other different places, right? Those are the job descriptions. That's I if you can upload those job descriptions to here, right? So for example, this is one of the company's job description that's you can see is one of the major biotech companies job descriptions, right? So you can upload this type of job descriptions here, right? So once you upload that job descriptions, you can always summarize, that anything that's a part of our basic workflows, which can tell basically what are the job descriptions about, or anything, right? So what happens is, as a part of our process, when you upload, it's summarized and it embeds embed the stuff. And say for example, I uploaded one of the resumes also, right? Sample resumes, which is actually some of the resume and my resumes itself, so for the sake of the basically running the workflows, right? Once we uploaded these two, what talent management readiness does is it can basically ensure that whether there is evidence mapping that's based on the job descriptions and based on the resumes. So what are the different evidences that it can and that it has, that whether it matches or not. So it has a lot of scoring opportunities as well. So that says it can do not only for a single resumes, it can do for many resumes, for particular job descriptions, or for a lot of job descriptions. It can also do for a lot of resumes validations as well. So that's what the talent management readiness is. There is a workflow here. So I already run one of the workflows which I wanted to show you. Say that if you wanted to run a workflow, the thing that you need to do is you need to select what job descriptions and what resume that's what you care about. So for example, if you look at here, right, so there's a something that is considered as a resume, something that considered as a job description. So it means in these verticals, the one that is a part of a job descriptions classified, that would gonna come here under this list, and this resume is basically whatever is classified as the resume that would gonna come. It means based on the different resume that's you got from either your LinkedIn or anywhere, you have to download and have to upload into the DocIntel systems, and then you can run this workflow. So that when I run this workflow, right? So now what happens is, say I can run a workflow and can show you in between. Let me run the workflow. So I'm doing this one way against this. When I run a talent readiness, it is running. But by the time it is running, I wanted to show you some of the approved one which I ran it a little earlier, so for the sake of the time. So you see the way it happens is all the talent profile, so which is basically get extracted the informations from the resumes and make it the nice structured formats. First it creates the professional summaries with the AI basically creates the summary based on whatever is being put into the resumes, right? So I'm not going to what it says, but it beautifully it summarizes the professional summaries. Then what happens is the different experiences that it captures, right, based on whatever is being discussed, right, in nice formats. And then you see that there is education is also beautifully captured, the different education and certifications. These are the typical things that's from the candidate profile. Either you put in Workday or any other systems that this come in a structured format. What DocIntel will gonna help us is it will gonna extract the resumes and make into this nice structured format, so that the people doesn't need to enter that. Now it would gonna extract the skills. Now how this skills came is actually, again, it's a lot of important thing that is being discussed based on the in the resumes, and it would gonna extract from there. It don't necessarily will gonna pick up from the skills. It would gonna understand by the semantic meaning and the reasoning, and from the resumes, and it would put all the skills by the keyword matching or the semantic matching. So there's a lot of skills that it's able to identify. Now, the job description has a roles, and roles has a lot of requirements. So, for example, what are the required skills, right? What are the preferred skills? What are the transferable strength? These are something that's what it comes. You see, when I ran earlier this workflow, right? So you see that there is a matching percentage that it says, right? For the required capabilities, preferred capabilities, minimum evidence and education. This is how basically when we run a workflow, it basically calculates. So you see the match summary, it already mentioned that it says a very strong candidate exceeding the minimum experience requirement. He demonstrated extensive expertise in a lot of things. That's what is a part of this one, which is means is basically what it tells about that based on the roles that is being mentioned, that is the match summary is basically summarized. That's how whether it's match, good match or not. If it's not a good match, it will tell you that it's not a good match, and the score percentage that you see, that will be also less. And some of the required preferred capability, minimum experience, educations, everything will gonna fall apart, right? It will not be a 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 or all of these things. So these are some of the things that's when you run that you do see, right? For example, you see that's whatever I ran, right, this was the approved one, there's a 93% role match, right? So but now you might see that there's a 96%, for there is for a reason, because there is options to edit later on based on the interviewer questions. I'm gonna go through that. So for example, I just explained the role match. Next is the evidence matrix. Now, based on the entire resume, that's what it has, and based on the job requirement, it basically looks at for the all the required job criteria. That's what it's mentioned. It basically mapped with the evidence, and it basically explains. For example, the strong track record with the LLM technique, including generative and embedding techniques, experience with large language model, including generative AI and embedding methods. Then it says they add that this company architect and led Gen AI agents, RAG and evaluation problems. It is based on the resume. It finds out all this information at map there, and it classify whether it's a met, not met, partial, or missing, right? And these are the way unclear. These are the way it basically puts all the evidence metrics, right? Then it does some kinds of gap analysis, that if something is not being there, right, based on the job, it basically also tells. So for example, proficiency is Python, TensorFlow, PyTorch, and scalable ML. These may not be clearly been written, right? So that's why it says there's a partial. So based on the description, it looks like that there is a transferable knowledge, but it did not mention these keywords. So that's where it basically tells some of the items as a part of the gap analysis. Beautifully, AI basically does the reasoning as a part of a gap analysis. Based on that, what the interviewer can do, interviewer can ask questions. So it basically prepares a questionnaires for the interview validations also. If they find out some of the evidence is not being met, right, is not met, or there is gap there, it basically prepares a question. So it's can you elaborate on your experience on specific deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow or PyTorch beyond platform level like Vertex AI and SDK? See, these are the gaps. That's when it identifies, right? It basically did. Then what it happens, interview rating, it asks decision signals, right? Then interviewers, who is the interviewer, what are the evidence of the interviewer feedbacks. That means key, once you did this interview can ask any questions. What it is helping you, even the interviewer, based on the job description and the thing, that it is also basically asking that these are the mandatory thing that you can validate to make sure that you did capture. Interview can ask any questions, and later on interview can basically give a scores as well, right? And then the recruiter reviews. Recruiter can be hire managers, anybody or like that. Prior to that, there's a lot of options. Select after review, hold for clarification, do not advance. This is the way you can basically put any of the stuff, right? Any of the resumes, you can basically put it to the different states, right? And ultimately what you can do, you can save this review, you can approve the packet, you can download the candidate PDF. I wanted to show you, if I download the candidate PDF, how does it look like? Something like this, right? So this is how it looks. And also you can ingest this packet to the DocIntel. So I already ingested this particular one to DocIntel. I will show you. So now you see that's the one that I just ran. It's a part of the by default. It comes as a need review, right? It means that there's recruiter review was not been done, right? So then interviewer, the one that I just showed you, right? Those are all come here. Gap analysis also, it for a strong written communication skill. Now it comes as a part of the requirement gap because it's not been very clearly mentioned. Although it means the communication excellence, but how this written strong written communication skill works, it basically it did asks, right? So look at that, some of the things that it says missing, right? It says missing for a reason, right? Now if this is a missing, right, you have an options for interviewing this one. So for example, this is the thing, can you provide examples of technical let me see what is this questions about. This one, can you describe an experience you have a graph database or using graph structures within your ranking? Say that interviewer asks these questions and interviewer satisfied, right? What you can do, you can basically put decision signals because choose for example supports for requirement, mixed evidence, or does not support, say supports requirement. So you did that, right? Based on that, what would gonna happen, that it would gonna identify that it does a good job. What would gonna happen is, if you reconcile this evidence, what I did last time, these evidence matrix will get changed. That means what this missing stuff, right, will gonna change to a, say for example, met, right? That's what exactly what I did here, right? So it did not come later on, as a part of the interview process. I basically modified these informations, right? You're gonna see as a part of the interviewer plan. When I did that, right, it's already been done. That's why it gets captured, right? So now that was already done, right? Okay, that's why it basically came. So now you understand how the entire workflow works, right? So it's a full workflow for the talent management systems. That's right from the job descriptions, loading to different resumes that you can get. For each of the resume, you can get a fantastic scores, and based on the scores itself, you can identify whether this candidate is a very good skilled or not. If there is a missing skill, that you will also we understand. So before going to the next level, to the hiring managers, or even for to the technical interviews or anything that you wanted to proceed, at each and every steps, right, you can basically assess and add information here, right? So and then you can basically say about the scoring technique, that's how much score that it was, and you can basically say that whether you wanted to recruit or not. That's how your talent management readiness works. So it means that you can have an educated decisions. That's when you are basically, AI here is helping for your educated decisions to select the right resumes for the next level of interview processing. Thank you so much. Hope this explains our talent management readiness. Just only one thing I would like to show you, ultimately how the candidate review packet looks like. If you insert, you'll gonna see over here, right? So now it's because you have these options, you also have an options basically to ask any questions. I can ask a questions. So what is findings in candidate review packet for Brajadas? Candidate review packet. I'm just asking these questions. That's everything what we do here, it gets stored, because it gets stored and embedded. So you always have an option to chat, and anyone can basically ask any questions from any resumes and basically see that's what is the status of that one, right? So you see that you ask some questions, now it is still answering. Yeah, he's still working on answering. Like overall profile role match, you see it explain everything. A strong candidate, extensive experience, requirement for the role, blah blah blah, many different things. That's what you wanted to do. Do you wanted to consider, do you think this candidate can advance to next level? Look, it is basically searching from the information, right? It will not gonna give you anything. So when you ask a questions, because this is a chat, is basically whatever the information that excel. The recruiter decision is to advance to the candidate. Yes, the recruiter review indicates that the candidate can advance to the next levels, right? The status of the review is approved. See, when you do that, you can always a thumbs up. You can evaluate any of the questionnaires. That's, we always have an evaluation, so that you say that whether it's a good information or not, right? So what I mean by that here is that it is in our DocIntel, the chat workflow or the conversations is part of our generic offerings, right? Even in the candidate review packet that it comes, you can ask any questions at any time, whether you are hiring managers, whether you are interviewer. Before you go to the interview, take the interview, and after the initial screening or the mid screening, you can still ask a questions and get an answer about the talents and resumes and all of these things. So now it's a workflow in combinations with your DocIntel generic features, with the conversational frameworks, that would gonna help for the talent management readiness. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much.